Son, Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Okay, welcome to Logos Bible Study Meeting. As you know, from last week we started a new series about the historical books of the Old Testament. Last week we studied together the book of Joshua, and we said, if you remember, that we divided the historical books into two parts or two sections. The first one is called the Pre-Exilic historical books, which are the books that happened before the exile, which are Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. These are the pre-exilic ones. And then we have the post-exilic historical books, which are Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. These are only three books after the exile. We finished Joshua last week, and today we are going to study together the book of Judges. The book of Judges is one of the important books in the Bible because it shows us how bad the Israelites became after they took the land, the promised land, by Joshua. But it didn't take them long to fall behind, and morally and everything, religiously and everything. Who was the writer of the book of Judges? Although the book didn't say who's the writer, but we know from tradition that Samuel the prophet is the writer of the book. So the book of Joshua was written by Joshua, and the book of Judges was written by Samuel. Also, Samuel wrote the book of Ruth, and also he wrote the book of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel up until chapter 28 when he died. After that, another person took over. The book of Judges covers a lengthy period of time of Israel's history. From the death of Joshua will die in Judges 2, until the rise of Samuel the prophet, and Samuel is considered to be the last judge. The judges are 13 in total, including Samuel, 12 that we know of, and Samuel is number 13, considered to be the last judge, and after that, it's a new era after that. It is believed that it covers a period of about 300 to 350 years. This is the book of Judges. Some people can divide the history of Israel into sections, 400 years each, approximately, not exactly 400 years, as follows. Some people say from the birth of Abraham to the death of Joseph, this is 400 years, roughly, give or take. From the death of Joseph to the Exodus, also 400 years. From Exodus to the monarchy, at the time of Samuel, 400 years. And from the monarchy period to the exile, the Babylonian exile, 400 years. So 4 periods of 400 years each makes 1600 years from Abraham to the exile. The book of Judges is a record of occasional deliverer, not like a succession. It's not like the monarchy when we see there is a succession of kings, but this one's like a period of time we have a deliverer or a governor, and then a silent period, and then another one comes in, and so on. The word judge here, don't you think about a courtroom or judicial person, a judicial judge. The word judge here means a governor, someone who's taking over Israel, or to govern Israel at a certain period of time. So the judge here like a governor. The primary message of the book of Judges is clear that God will not allow sin to go unpunished. We see a lot of sin in the book of Judges, but God will not allow sin to go unpunished. God will punish the sin of Israel by raising up their enemies against them. As Exodus established, Israel was God's people, so he was their king, so they had forsaken the covenant that established at Mount Sinai. In Judges, he disciplined them for following other gods, disobeying his sacrificial laws, and engaging in deliberate immorality and descending into rebellion at times. Yet, because they are his people, he listened to their cries for mercy and raised up a leader to deliver them. This is the pattern of the Judges. So Israel were not faithful to God, so God is angry with them. God will raise up another nation to defeat them. They cry out to the Lord to help them, and he sent a deliverer to them. There are two key verses in the book of Judges, and that summarize what's happening in the book of Judges. The first one is in Judges 2:16 to 17. The Lord raised up judges who delivered them out of the hand of those who plundered them, yet they would not listen to their judges, but they played the harlot with other gods and bowed down to them. They turned quickly from the way in which their father walked in obeying the commandments of the Lord. They did not do so. So that summarizes the pattern of Israel at that time. And there another famous verse in Judges 21:20-25, not only in this area, in this part, but also in other parts of the book. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Every now and then, especially in the last chapter, from chapter 17 to 21, probably it's recorded once, at least once in each of those chapters, because of the moral decline that happens there. The book of Judges consists of blocks of independent episodes rather than a storyline. There is no storyline here, but there's the blocks of episodes. These episodes are joined by a common recurring subject of Israel drifting from God's way and God's faithfulness in delivering them back to him. So how did it start? Another generation came in the book of Judges. They were unwilling to help the rest. Remember last time that when we said that those tribes who took their inheritance in the eastern of Jordan, Moses put a condition that if you like to take those parts, you have to help your brothers as well. So they did, but this new generation, it was unwilling to help the rest, and they also lived among idolaters and become contaminated with their practice. And also the surrounding nations used their wickedness in military alliance and intermarriage, which resulted in apostasy and idolatry. So that very soon after settling in the promised land, the Israelites fell into apostasy and a lot of idolatry, which accompanies those apostasy and idolatry with the immoral consequences as well, because of the surrounding nations contaminated them. So this is the pattern that we will see in the book of Judges. Here, so the people fall into the sin and idolatry, and then God is angry with them, and then oppression by the enemies, people cry out. God chose a judge to save them, a period of peace, and then the peace finished with the death of the judges, and it's all over again. So these are the pattern of all of these things. Or sometimes people like to call it the 5 S's. The 5 S's are sin, suffering, supplication, salvation, and a period of silence. Silence means peace here until the judge dies, and it's all over again. So that's the pattern. We'll see it in all of the 12 episodes of the book of Judges. If you put the book of Judges in a nutshell, chapter 1 and 2 is the lack of obedience to God, and that's the start of that, which led to enslavement and defeat at least 6 big times. Then moral and spiritual decay, which was very obvious in the last chapters, full of moral and spiritual decay in Israel. We are going just to talk about the most important 6 judges and the 6 periods of enslavements. There are 12 judges, but there are a lot of judges. Just the book wrote 1 line about each. But these 6 judges and the 6 periods are the most important and the longest. So in this table, we will see what enemy that was raised by God in order to defeat Israel, and how long this enemy, how many years of the bondage that this enemy exerted over Israel, and who was the judge, and the deliverance and rest. This is the time of peace, and then the scripture reference. So the first enemy here is Mesopotamia, which is between the rivers, and the year of bondage is 8 years. The judge here is a man by the name of Othniel. And then 40 years of rest and peace. This is the time that Othniel lived after the deliverance, and that's in chapter 3. Then the second one is Moab. Moab is the second enemy. 18 years. Ehud is the deliverer. 80 years. Ehud lived 80 years after that. The third enemy here was Canaan. They oppressed them for 20 years. God sent Deborah, the prophetess, 40 years of rest in chapter 4. And then the fourth one is Midian. 7 years, God said Gideon, rest or peace for 40 years in chapter 6 to 8. And then the nation of Ammon, or the Ammonites, oppressed Israel for 18 years. God sent a man by the name of Jephthah, 6 years only of peace in chapter 10 to 12. And the last one is Philistia, or the Philistine, 40 years of oppression. God sent Samson, 20 years of rest in chapter 13 to 16. And then 17 to 21, the moral decay, 2 sad stories after that. So that's basically what is the book of Judges. So let's talk about, because there are other six judges are very minor. As I said, some of them we just read 1 line in the book. So we just concentrate on those 6 judges, the 6 main judges. Before we go into the individual judges, we go to just talk about the political problems in those days of the judges. Remember last time in Joshua, we said Joshua tried to conquer the whole land, but he died before conquering the whole land. So a big part, or not a big part, a part of the land of the promise, or the promised land, was not conquered. So the people were staying there, living among the Israelites. After Joshua's death, the question was asked, who's the leader then? So after Joshua, remember, before Joshua was appointed, Moses appointed Joshua as his successor. After Joshua died, who is the leader? And the Lord instructs Judah, the tribe of Judah, and said, Judah shall go up. Indeed, I have delivered the land into his hand. So God said, okay, get a leader from the tribe of Judah. If you look here, this is the land of the tribe of Judah, this big land here in the southern Israel. This is the land where the southern kingdom will be later on. And if you look also within the land of Judah, this also the land of Simeon here. Okay? So Judah in here and Simeon. So God said Judah will lead. So Judah asked Simeon, the tribe of Simeon, to also help them, and the two tribes were virtually inseparable in leading Israel. When Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands. So they succeeded in conquering the Perizzites and the Canaanites. They struck down 10,000 men in a city called Bezek. This is a very famous battle there in a city called Bezek. And then while capturing the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the men found the governor of Bezek, a man by the name of Adoni Bezek. The word Adoni here means the ruler or the lord of Bezek. The lord of Bezek, Adoni Bezek, and fought against him. They captured and brought him to Jerusalem and cut off his big toes and his thumbs. The two thumbs and the two big toes. We'll know why after that. Okay? One of the reasons that they did that, because Adoni Bezek himself had captured 70 kings before, and he also cut their big toes and thumbs off and forced them into slavery. So as you do, you done for you. So he realized that the Lord repaid him for his bad deeds in the past. Adoni Bezek died in Jerusalem, and the men of Judah attacked Jerusalem, captured it, killed with sword, and burned it with fire. That's fine. By the way, Jerusalem in the past was called Jebus, and Jebus called Jebus because it was the land of the Jebusites. But Jerusalem was called Jerusalem after David, when David came. But the main mistake that Judah did when they conquered Jebus, they did not occupy the land. So they left it. And the Jebusites who escaped the land returned to it again and rebuilt it. So they couldn't take Jerusalem or Jebus, and it became the stronghold because of the mountain. Mount Zion that was there, that was stronghold for them, and they kept it from that time when Judah conquered them until David came and he conquered Jebusites and took Jerusalem and built it for himself. Okay, 400 years later when David came. So let's go back to Adoni Bezek. Why did they cut off his thumbs and big toes? Although this one is a very strange notion, it is very specific military structure, because if someone, imagine that you don't have a thumb, you won't be able to do, the hand will lose its function. You can't do anything without the thumb. So you can't carry anything, you can't, for example, imagine that can you carry a dish at home or a plate without the thumb? You can't. So actually it loses most of the function of the hand, let alone carrying the sword. So if you are a warrior or a king or someone is going to fight, if you don't have thumbs, you can't carry the sword. So that will actually, as if they disable or disqualify the person. Same thing with the big toe as well. So that was a military strategy used in the antiquities in order to disable the person. Then we come in chapter 1, we still here. The allied forces of Judah, we said that Judah is the one that conquered Jebus, and Simeon could not drive out the native of the plains because their enemies utilized iron chariots. So that was the excuse of Judah. God said to Judah, I'm going to give you the land. But they said, no, they have iron chariots, we can't take it. So their chariots represented military strength and superiority, and instead of calling on the Lord for greater grace, they failed to complete their mission and abandoned the conquest. Although God, it's the same thing, same pattern. When God in the wilderness told the Israelites, go and I'm giving you the promised land, they came and they found the people very strong and they said, we can't. 10 out of the 12 spies said, we can't. Here, the same thing. Judah and Simeon said, we can't take Jebus because they have iron chariots. Although if they relied upon God, these iron chariots will not stand for them. We can also benefit spiritually from that. The chariots are any overwhelming challenge that we may flee from in fear, but overcome by faith. So if we have faith, anything that overwhelms us in our spiritual warfare will be nothing because we are relying upon God. God is able to defeat these. Then they came, remember Gilgal, the city that Joshua circumcised the people, to a city they called Bokim after that. Bokim means crying in Hebrew. The angel of the Lord rebuked them, and God leaves some of the people of the land to test Israel as a thorn there, right? So let's read what happened here. Then the angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bokim and said, I led you up from Egypt and brought you to the land of which I swore to your fathers, and I said, I will never break my covenant with you. God's saying here, I have been faithful all along. And you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. That was the condition of God. I will keep my covenant, and in return, do not do any covenant with the inhabitants of the land. You shall tear down their altar, but you have not obeyed my voice. So I kept my part of the covenant, and you didn't. Why have you done this? Therefore, so there will be consequences here. I did my part, you did not do your part, so these are the consequences. Therefore, I also said, I will not drive them out before you. Because you did not drive them out, I'm not going to drive them out, but they shall be thorns in your side, and their gods shall be a snare to you. So it was when the angel of the Lord spoke these words to all the children of Israel, the people lifted up their voices and wept. That's why they called the city Bokim. Bokim means crying. It's like very, very similar to the Arabic. Then they called the name of that place Bokim, and they sacrificed there to the Lord. And then Joshua had dismissed the people. The children of Israel went each to his own inheritance to possess the land. So the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord which he had done for Israel. After Joshua died, everything went back. Then the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals, and they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they followed their gods from among the gods of the people who were all around them, and they bowed down to them. And they provoked the Lord to anger. They forsook the Lord, and they served Baal and the Asheris, and anger of the Lord was hot against Israel. So that's the start of the cycle. So he delivered them, and the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, so he delivered them into the hands of the plunderers who despoiled them, and he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, so that they could no longer stand before the enemies. Wherever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for calamity, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn to them. And they were greatly distressed. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges who delivered them out of the hand of those who plundered them. Yet they would not listen to their judge, but they played the harlot with other gods and bowed down to them. They turned quickly from the way in which their fathers walked in obeying the commandments of the Lord. They did not do so. So that's like a summary of what's going to happen. Let's talk about the individual judges. I will talk a few words. Yes, John. Sure. Joshua and Moses were the servants of the Lord. Yeah, because they were indeed the servants of the Lord. Yeah. I think it's here in the book of Judges, yes, you're quite right. But I think here also to put a contrast between Joshua and Moses on one hand and what happened now, what we're going to see on the other hand. Because in other books, there are, for example, you can't say that Samuel wasn't a servant of the Lord. You can't say David wasn't a servant of the Lord. They were. But because of this big contrast between Joshua and Moses and what happens here, even with the judges, not all the judges were fantastic people. Okay. So the first one was Othniel. Othniel, the descent of Othniel is very interesting because the actual verse is very ambiguous. When you read the verse, it says here, he's the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. So who's Caleb's younger brother? Kenaz or Othniel? There is a lot of debate about that. So who was Othniel? He said Othniel is the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. So who was Caleb's younger brother? Kenaz, the father, or Othniel himself? We don't know. So we usually say, I mean, most of the Jews they say he was the nephew of Caleb. So the brother of Caleb was Kenaz, his father, and Othniel is his nephew, because also Othniel was married to Caleb's daughter. Her name was Aksa. At face value, this makes him either the brother or the nephew, but most of the Jews say that he was the nephew of Caleb. Othniel delivers the people against Cushan, the king of the Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is the Iraq. So Othniel delivers the people against Mesopotamian king. His name was Cushan. Othniel in Hebrew means the lion of God, and Cushan means double darkness. So we have here the lion of God against the double darkness. So that's Othniel. The second one was by the name of Ehud. Ehud is very well known of two things. When you say Ehud was a left-handed person. Why the Bible mentioned that, we'll see in a minute. And then the second thing about Ehud, he was the killer of the Moabite king. His name was Eglon. And it's known that Eglon was an obese king. Let's read here. And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. This is after Othniel. And the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He gathered to himself the Ammonites and the Amalekites and went and defeated Israel. And they took possession of the city of Palms, which is Jericho. And the people of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. So that's the time of slavery there. Again, the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and he gave them a deliverer, Ehud. And the Bible said here Ehud was a left-handed man. Why? Of son of Gera, the Benjamite, the Israelites sent him with tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Ehud concealed a small double-edged sword under his clothes. Now, why left-handed? Now, if you are a right-handed person, where the sword will be? On your left thigh, okay? You're going to the king, and they will search you. Where are they gonna put their hand to find the sword? On the left thigh. If you are a left-handed person, the sword will be okay. And that what happened? He passed the soldiers unnoticed. So he went into the inner chamber of the king, and just stabbed the king. In the privacy of the king's upper room, Ehud told Eglon, "I have a message from God for you," and then plunged his sword into the king's belly. Then things got even pretty graphic, sorry about that. Even the handle of the sword sank in after the blade, and his bowels discharged. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over it. That would say how fat or how obese this king was. And of course, Ehud just left the chamber and closed the door. And then it went, a long time went, and until they discovered that the king was killed. They said that. Yeah, it probably slept. With the king dead, the Israelites launched a surprise attack. They killed 10,000 soldiers and conquered Moab. Moab became the subject to Israel, and there was peace for 80 years until Ehud died. So Ehud survived 80 years after that, and we know now why the Bible said he was a left-handed person. Any question about Ehud or Othniel? Yeah, he's not from Judah. Yeah. Caleb is not from Judah, but he's an Israelite. No, he was an Israelite, but he's not from the tribe of Judah. Yeah. But he wasn't from there?
But he wasn't from this tribe, and also he wasn't from this tribe.
The Midianite could be, yeah. But he represented Judah at that time, yeah. And he was one of two that came back and said, yeah, we can do it, yeah. Okay, the third one was a woman this time, a prophetess by the name of Deborah. She sent and summoned Barak, the son of Abinoam, from Kadesh Naphtali, and said to him, "Has not the Lord, the God of Israel, commanded you?" So there was some enemies coming toward Israel, and this strong woman, Deborah, got to Barak, the son of Abinoam, and said to him, "God commanded you, go gather the men at Mount Tabor, taking 10,000 from the people of Naphtali and the people of Zebulun, and I will draw out Sisera, the general of Jabin's army, to meet you by the river Kishon, and his chariots and his troops, and I will give him into your hand." So God said to, see the recurrence of the same thing. God said to Barak, "I'm going to give you the Sisera and his people." But see what Barak said. Barak said to her, "If you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. Come with me." Very strange. And she said to him, "I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the road on which you are going will not lead to your glory, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. So the victory of the Lord will be attributed to me, not to you." And that's what happens. So he wasn't willing to follow the rules, the Lord, and lead the army of Israel. But the one who had the courage to do it was Deborah. And that's what exactly happened. When Sisera seeks refuge in a local woman's tent, the owner, Yael, a woman by the name of Yael or Jael, entices Sisera to sleep and kill him. See how brutal those people were. She killed him. She went, the Sisera, the leader of the enemy, came into the tent, and she said to him, you look tired. Can I get you something to drink? He said, yes, please, can I have something to drink? And she brought him a big glass of milk, and then he drank the milk, and can you go and sleep, and I'll look after you and stuff. And he slept, and she got the peg of the tent and just hammered it into his cheek, to his skull. Deborah recounts the victory in a lengthy song. There's a big song of Deborah in chapter 5. So there's 3. Othniel, the second one was Ehud, the third one Deborah, and the fourth one is Gideon. Gideon is very famous. God commissioned a humble man, Gideon, to save Israel from the next invader of the Midianites, who drained and scattered the people. So now the Midianites are the enemy, and God assigned Gideon to be the judge for Israel. When the Israelites cried to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I snatched you from the power of Egypt and from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them from before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me." So this is the accusation. This is the accusation of people. I told you not to worship any other god, but you did. An angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, and he said to him, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." And because of that, Gideon offered an offering for God. And also because of that, his father had an altar. See the whole corruption of religion there. His father had an altar to Baal, the god of the Canaanites, and the Israelites responded to his call to fight. The people who were worshipping Baal as well with Gideon's father knew that who destroyed the shrine of the god was Gideon, the son of that man. So they said to him, "Bring out your son that he may die, for he has broken down the altar of Baal and cut down the Asherah beside it." But Joash, that's the father of Gideon, said to all who stood against him, "Will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? Whoever contends for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself." Why you are defending Baal? Baal, you said that he's a god. If he's a god, he defends himself. You don't have to defend him. Sorry? Yes. Yeah, he made an altar for him, but now I think he came back to his senses. Therefore, okay, if he's a god, let him contend for himself, because his altar has been broken down. Therefore, on that day, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, or Yerubbaal in Arabic. That is to say, let Baal contend against him. Jerubbaal means the contender of Baal, or the one who conquered Baal. That's the new name of Gideon. So Gideon said to God, "Okay, if you want me to save Israel, give me a sign." So he had a wool fleece, and he said to God, "Okay, if you want me to go and you will be with me, let be the fleece wet and the ground surrounding it dry." And the next morning that happened, and he said, "Okay, can I just be another time? Let's do the opposite. Let's the ground outside be wet and the fleece itself dry," and that what happened. So they had 22,000 warriors to go with Gideon. Yes, please. To, ma- to use a sign? Yeah, why not? When you ask God to give you a sign, yes, but Gideon did it twice. He wasn't convinced from the beginning. Look, I think it's a good thing to pray from your heart for God to give you a sign. But the problem is we have to act upon it. So you are willing to act even though the sign is not what you want. And some people, for example, they can put two small papers on the altar, two choices, but they deep down in their heart, they want their choice to be picked up. And if it's not picked up, they put it again. That's not right. If you are, with the absolute faith, if you put two and you pick up one, act upon it. Otherwise, don't do it. You just because also God gave us mind to think as well. So you have to look at the situation from all the aspects, and if you can't determine which option of the two, then you put that. But Gideon, Gideon wanted to do it twice. He was a bit hesitant to do it. There's no answer to this, unfortunately. In a way, yes, but in the meantime, he was just interceding for them. God wanted to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, but Abraham said, okay, what about if you find 50? God said, okay, for 50, I'm not going to destroy it. And he came down to 10, but there was no 10 people there to save the city. Yeah, it's very dangerous if it's done haphazardly. I heard, did you hear there was a joke that someone opened the Bible and said, okay, I will open the Bible and whatever comes, I will act upon it. And he found that when Judas went and hanged himself, it can't be a command, this one. Go and hang yourself. No, you can't. Look, as I said, some people can put two pieces of paper on the altar. I heard someone said, one of the fathers said, you do this only if you can't make a decision and you are willing to take whatever comes out of this exercise. But that after you exhaust your thinking and considering the situation and all the circumstances and ask people and everything, and then if you can't take a decision, you put that. And once it comes out, you have to act upon it, not only the one that you are leaning toward. It's very hard. It's very dangerous. You don't have to do it. But in the meantime, also, if I trust God very much, I can pray about something and I say, God, just give me peace inside me if you want me to do this. So, and I do it in complete faith. And if God gives me peace about a decision, I will do it. But these lots and stuff like that, it's a bit hard. Anyway, there were 22,000 people up for fighting against the enemy, but God said, no, this is too much. Yeah, just let's reduce them a bit. So therefore proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home. So God said, they're too many, just let's reduce them. So he said, who's fearful, go. Then 22,000 of the people returned. Sorry, they 32,000. So 22,000 out of the 32 went home. They were fearful. And God said, no, that's still too many. So, and against 300,000, yeah, exactly. But God said also this number, 10,000 against the big number of the enemy is too much. So God said, okay, get them to the lake, or to the river, and get them to drink. And just make like a demarcation between people who sit and take water by their hand, and those who just put their mouth into the water like dogs, like this. So these are the two types of people. Someone just drink directly from the river, and someone like this man who just uses his hand. Those people who used their hand were only 300. And God said, okay, with the 300, I'm going to dig that. There is a lot of speculation about the significance of this, but the things, the most common thing that when you drink water like this, so actually it means like you're watchful. You're not going to take your time and go and drink and not worry about the war. So you're still watchful while you're drinking. So he said, okay, get me those 300, and with these 300, I'm going to be victorious, or God would be leading them. Gideon and his few men surround the camps, and with the sound of trumpets, God said to him, get empty jars, trumpets, and broken jars, and with fire as well. So with the few men surround the camps, and with the sound of trumpets and broken jars, the Israelites emit such glamorous war cry, and the Midianites turn and slay each other. They were scared, and they thought that the Israelites probably 3 million. So they're gonna defeat them, so they killed themselves. And by the way, here, the people of Israel wanted to make Gideon their king, but Gideon said no. But guess what? Who was a king or a judge like a king after him? His son. His son by the name of Abimelech. Abimelech, the son of Gideon. The name Abimelech means my father is king. Abimelech, my father is king. Yani as if Gideon was going to be the king, but I was the king. And this man was brutal man, killed all his brothers, but someone threw a millstone out of the wall and killed him. They're very, very violent. Okay. Number 5 is Jephthah, the judge. Still, there was widespread worship of the god Baal that plagued Israel, and Gideon's son Abimelech here serves a violent 3-year reign as a king of Israel. Abimelech, my father is king. And he was a tyranny, killed all his brothers, but one woman threw a millstone and killed him. Jephthah promises God that if he's victorious, Jephthah is the next judge, and he said, okay, if God made me victorious, I will sacrifice to God the first thing that comes out of my house. He thought that a lamb would come out, or a cow, or something like that, but guess who came out? His daughter. Upon defeating the Ammonites, Jephthah returns home to see his daughter emerge from his house dancing to greet him. Jephthah laments his promise, but his daughter encourages him to remain faithful to God, and Jephthah kills his virgin girl. What do you think of that? Vow to kill his daughter. Is it a good thing? Is it a godly thing? What do you think? It is foolish to say that, yeah, exactly, because I don't know who's coming out. It might not be a lamb. I will sacrifice for God. I will hug him. Anything, not as a human being. Yeah. That's a lesson also for us when we make vows. So you have to think about the vow that you are making as well. And no vow will be contradicting God's command. Yes, please. Sorry? No, it's not. Wasn't. What do you think? Yes. Okay. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. If I make a vow for God, I have to act upon it. But if this vow that you are making contradicts God's commandments, because God actually prohibits children's sacrifice in the book of Leviticus and the book of Deuteronomy. God said, don't sacrifice, because that was one of the plagues in Israel as well, in the nations surrounding Israel. They were sacrificing their children, or children's sacrifice. So God prohibited that. So he made a vow, not knowing that his girl or his daughter was coming out to greet him. So he should have said, no, but this is against the commandment of God. I'm not going to do it. But he said, okay, a vow is vow. I'm going to act upon it. And his daughter said, no. You have to be faithful. Yeah. But in these days, animals also were part of the house as well. So he was just hoping that a cow comes out. Yes. No. Yes, that's right. Yes, he worshipped Baal after that. And he said, okay, and this is also stubbornness and also against what God requires for us. And I think the lesson that I benefit from this story, that when I make a vow, I have to be careful, a vow that I can act upon, and also a vow that does not contradict what God wants. So for example, I can't make a vow, for example, that I kill someone, for example, if God made me successful. A vow against the commandment of God it's not going to work. All right? So, yes, please. Okay, bye. Abraham? Mm. Yes, in Hebrew 11. Yes, he himself was a godly person. That's a mistake. That doesn't mean he was a bad person. That's a mistake.
Yeah, but later on, he did.
Yeah, but someone might say if St. Paul remembered him in the Hall of Fame in Hebrews 11, so he must have repented at the end. For example, I'll give you an example. When we get to Second King, sorry, Lot. Yes, Lot was good. Second Kings, there is a king called Manasseh. Manasseh is one of the long-reigning kings of Israel. 52 years he reigned, and he was a very bad king. This was the king who killed Isaiah the prophet. He actually killed him with the saw. Okay, and then in the night of Apocalypse in our church, what we read the prayer of Manasseh, and it's a repenting prayer. Manasseh, this brutal king, at the end of his life, he repented. So it doesn't matter. So Jephthah, because St. Paul mentioned Jephthah, so he must have prevented at the end. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yes. Mm. Wasn't ignorance. That's right. Exactly. And the law is very clear. Yes. That's right. And Abraham as well, God did not allow it to complete. I mean, it wasn't fulfilled. And it was a test of faith. Yeah. Now, Jephthah didn't have excuse. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Now we come to Samson. Samson against the Philistines. The Philistines continued to oppress Israel, and the angel of the Lord appeared to a childless man by the name of Manoah. That's the father of Samson and his wife, promising them a son who will become Israel's next deliverer. The couple raises their son Samson as a Nazirite. The Nazirite means that a person who makes a vow as well, but this vow is to be very close to God, or to vow to be only worshiping God, doesn't do anything else. And according to that, there's some, if you read Leviticus, there are some criteria for the Nazirite. The Nazirite does not cut his hair, and also he does not come near any alcoholic drink or strong drink or wine, and also he doesn't touch any dead body. These are the Nazirite vow. And the Nazirite vow can be for a certain period of time, and the best example for that is St. Paul. We read in the book of Acts that St. Paul went to a city by the name of Cenchrea, and he cut his hair because he had a vow. After he finishes the vow, he cuts his hair. Some people can be Nazirites all their life, like John the Baptist, and this like Samson. So Samson and John the Baptist with Nazirites all their life. St. Paul was a Nazirite only a part of his life. You can be a Nazirite for a month. You can be a Nazirite for 3 months. You can be a Nazirite for a number of years. Or you can be a Nazirite for the whole life. And Samson was one of those. A Nazirite in the whole life. So that's why he did not cut his hair, and God gave him in his hair a special power. God blesses Samson with exceptional abilities, and one day Samson kills a lion with his bare hand, contrary to the Nazirite vow. Why? Because the Nazirite vow does not touch a dead body. It's not right. It's not one of the Nazirite will do. Samson chooses a Philistine woman to be his wife. By the way, when he killed the lion, he came back after and he found some honey inside the lion, and he said that out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. So Samson chooses a Philistine woman to be his wife. During the wedding ceremony, he baffles the Philistines with a riddle, and he said to them, I'll give you a riddle. What's this one? Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. Of course, no one knew about it. But this woman, she told him to tell her the answer of the riddle, and she told her people, and he promised a number of clothes sets to whoever solves it, and she went and told them, and he said his famous line, if you had not plowed on my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. So you knew it because you talked to my wife. After that, Samson burns with anger and goes home without his wife. But when he returns to retrieve her, the Philistines have given her to another man. Bad luck. See the moral corruption of that time. So Samson captures 300 foxes and ties torches to each of their tails, setting the Philistine crops ablaze. When the Philistines pursue Samson, the Israelites hand him over to his enemies, bound at the wrist With God's power, Samson broke the binding and uses the jawbone of a donkey to kill 1,000 Palestinian men. So that would tell you what Samson, how strong Samson was. After that, he fell in love again with another Philistine woman, Delilah. And Delilah was, the end of Samson was at her hand. The Philistine officials urged Delilah to discover the secret of Samson's power. And after a few attempts, he told her, and she also the same woman, the first woman who told the Philistines about the secret of the riddle. This woman told the Philistines about the secret of his power. So they cut his hair and also pierced his eyes, and they put him in prison. At the end of his life, the Philistines were in a big temple of theirs, and they brought Samson just to laugh at, and Samson had his hair grew back again, and then he put the two poles of the temple between his hands, and he demolished the whole temple on himself and also on everyone was there. And it says in the Bible that the amount of people, the number of people that Samson killed on his death were more than the number of people he killed during his life. Okay, so we have only about 5 chapters to finish, so I think we should do it, because next time Ruth is not that long. So instead of not to rush it, we do it with Ruth next week. There are 2 stories, one about a man by the name of Micah, and that's an example of what happened also, not only the moral decay that we see here. There's something called syncretism. Syncretism, like mixing 2 religions together. So mixing worshiping God with worshiping idols. That's the problem with Micah. And then moral decay with the story of the man and his concubine. We'll talk about them next week, because they're very sad. So let's go home today with just Samson. Okay. Any question? We've got only about 5 chapters in the book of Judges. Any question or comment? Yes, please.
Just a comment. Interesting to say how
Yes.
I was listening to the filmmaker about the Holocaust.
Yep.
He made reference to a reference in Ecclesiastes where it says,
Yeah.
what has been done will be done again.
Yes.
Nothing new under the sun.
That's right.
Something else just
Yes. It's all. Yes, human nature. And if you think about those as well, we have a glimpse of that in our days as well. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yes. All right. Thank you. Next week we finish the 2 stories that remain in the book of Judges and the beautiful book of Ruth. It's amazing that after this, or during this bad time of Israel, the dark time, comes a beautiful story like the story of Ruth. Also, the story of Ruth happened during the time of the Judges. Okay, let's pray. أنا بالنسبة له